group. How many of you came in 2020, January? It was a huge snowstorm and I came before. Okay, because I do recognize a handful of you. It was a fun, exciting night, and we had such a good time. And I just know that, well, the positive thing is that despite that it's been 3 years and COVID, I can happily say that the things that we talked about that time, much of it, there's still, anything that we talked about that was successful is still successful ways to run our business now. So that is very positive, right? So yeah, so congratulations for continuing to create and to pursue just sharing your art with everyone and making your artwork, making your artwork better. So yeah, congratulations for sticking through it. I'm not going to spend much time on my art. I do have some business cards. I'll pass them around. Take one if you want one. If you don't want one, just pass it. Just keep passing. And yeah, like Rob said, I do have a solo show up. Most of the pieces are about as big as I am or bigger. So, I mean, it was a lot of work, and I really enjoy doing it. You know how it is. Sometimes we just have to just be really brave and just go for it, you know? Just do the hard things, and that's what that show is. So it's up till the end of the month. And just to tell you a little bit more about me, I have 5 kids. This is my amazing husband, Carl. He makes sure that I get to paint and do the things that I need to do so I can be a better person. So many thanks to Carl. And yeah, so that's really it. Like I said, I didn't bring a whole lot of art because it's mostly alpine art right now. So I hope you enjoyed these 2 little pieces, and feel free to ask me anything more about that. But the main reason why we're here tonight is to talk about art business, and it's one of my very favorite topics because it's great to create art, but if we can't get it to the people that we created them for, then it's kind of a waste, because most of us, I could be wrong, most of us have limited places to put our art in our house, right? And so at some point it needs to leave the nest. So it's always good if we can find the people that these pieces are created for. Now I have some topics that I thought we could talk about, but I really want this to be about each of you. And so first of all, I just want to ask, in general, what are some things that are working for each of you right now in your art business that you feel like are going well or that have been helpful to you these last couple years? I see I'm not supposed to touch it.
It's just touchy.
It's touchy. Is there anything that's working really well that people have tried? That's why you came. Okay, that's good. I just don't want to get up here and just tell you everything because I know you have experience.
Instagram.
So, Instagram
worked better before the algorithm changes.
Yes. Okay, so Rob's saying Instagram worked better before the algorithm. Who agrees with that? I do too, Rob, I do too. And so I would say there are still people having a lot of success with Instagram, but for me personally, I believe that Instagram is a wonderful way to share about your art and attract new collectors, and it's kind of like your hello, but then you have to do something afterwards. Yes, Tom?
How does that compare with Facebook, I wonder?
Yes, and because they're owned by the same company and they both have algorithms, they're going to be similar. I would say, and you guys can help me out here, I think it depends on where your collectors are. If your collectors are on Facebook, then obviously you want to be spending more time on Facebook. If your collectors are on Instagram, you want to get on Instagram. So I think for a long time it seemed like, okay, maybe people with more wisdom were on Facebook and there was a younger crowd on Instagram, but I don't think that's the case anymore. And if I had to say to choose one over the other for art collectors, what I found is that Instagram seems to be better for me. But I'm curious, how many of you are doing better on Facebook? Raise your hand. See, there you go. How many of you are doing better on Instagram? Okay, so just a few more. And how many of you are doing better on a different social media app? Does anyone else do anything else? It's okay if you're not.
What about TikTok?
TikTok. Is anyone on TikTok? I'm not even on TikTok. Am I on TikTok? Actually, I just barely signed up for TikTok.
Isn't that on another planet?
Yeah, it really is. My kids knew a lot more about TikTok. Anyways, it's okay if you're not doing other things. I think what's important is that, just like Rob said, because of the algorithm, it does make it harder because it doesn't matter how much you put out there. Your collectors may not be able to see everything that you put out there, and that's kind of a bummer because you spend all this time and effort, and then because of the algorithm, everyone's not seeing it. So we have alternative ways to get our work out. So what else are you guys doing that you know people are actually seeing?
Websites.
Yes, Jean, websites. Websites, that's definitely within my top 2. Anything else that anybody's doing?
Newsletter?
Yes, a newsletter, whether it's email or even, just if you send out hand newsletters. Those are my top 2 right there. Emails and the website. Those are my top 2. I felt like they were the strongest ways to help people get to know me and my work before COVID, and I still think those are the top 2. Those are the things that I would recommend the most if you're gonna put your time anywhere. I think that Instagram and Facebook are kind of a bonus. So if you have time and you can take the same information that you put, excuse me, in your email or on your website, maybe your blog, and then you can put the same information on your Instagram. But if you're me, and sometimes it's just enough to just do a couple things, and then you're like, I gotta spend time with my family, I gotta do other things, I gotta get back in the studio. So I'm just here to say it's okay. One thing that I would say is that as we talk tonight, there's gonna be a lot of maybe principles or even strategies that we're gonna be discussing. And I would say just kind of go ahead and take notes on anything you think would be good for you, but by the end of the night, only circle maybe 1 to 2 or 3 and then work on those for the next 6 to 8 months, okay? And then as we talk about these strategies and principles, if you think that it's not working for you, stop doing it. It's okay. It's okay to stop doing it because what do we really want to do? We want to be creating, right? We don't want to spend all of our time just throwing out information hoping that something's going to stick. So those would be my recommendations. Please don't get overwhelmed tonight because I know it's really easy. I get overwhelmed when I hear all these ideas. And I will say also that sometimes I have to, ditch some things for others, and sometimes I realize, oh, I'm just really not doing a good job with this. And there's some things that I think that I should be doing that I'm not. So don't feel like you're alone in this. This is just the name of the game, right? Okay, so, all right, so we've got websites, we've got our social media. Do you guys want a few little ideas that I have for social media for you? So if you are going to be using Facebook and Instagram, I would say one of the most valuable things that you can be doing right now is use it to connect with people. Now, it could be people that are just meeting you for the first time, or it could be people that you've known for a while. What I've been doing lately is really focusing on the direct message or the messenger part of Facebook and Instagram, where you have those little private chats with people, right? So if somebody's on your Instagram and they are liking something that you've done and they're asking questions, then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll say, hey, I'll send you information in the direct messages, or send me, message me in the direct messages, and then I'll send you some more information. And the more that you can do that and have those personal connections, it's gonna go a lot further with your relationship with them, and it makes it easier for them to feel comfortable at some point buy from you. Tom, did you have a comment?
No, I lost it.
Okay, you raise your hand if it comes back. So one of the things that I tried to do while I was promoting my solo shows, if you look at my Instagram, I had like 2 or 3 posts from last year, maybe, and then I was like, I gotta post a few things because I've got this solo show coming up. So again, do not feel guilty. If you don't want to spend every day on there, you don't have to, okay? So what I found was that I could put in there, like, I can't remember the exact post or words, but one time I was getting ready for the show, and so I said, if you want to make sure that you're on my email list and you're getting all the information for the solo show, just put in the comments the word solo, and I will direct message, whatever. And so then people would put the word solo, and then I would write in the comments, I would reply to them, and I would say, okay, I'm going to go direct message you and make sure that I have your correct email, or, what I would do is I would go in my email thing, and I would say, oh, this person is not on my list. So then I would take the link, and I would send it to them, or they could give me their email, and I could add them. Does that make sense? And so that was super helpful. So then I already kind of knew that some people were already interested, that maybe I hadn't talked to for a while, or I'd never actually met them. And so that was helpful. And then later on, I created an online catalog. This is the first time I've ever done this, but I took all the pieces and I made it on Canva, and then I even made a book out of it. I should have, well, they're all at Alpine. If you go to Alpine, you can see the book. But I can give you the link if you want to see the Canva. But I said, write the word catalog if you want to see the catalog. And so then I would direct message them the link. So this is what I'm hearing from people, is that the more interaction we do in the direct messages, the better the algorithm is going to be for us. I don't know if it's true. Give it a whirl. See if it works. So there's sometimes people say, oh, this is a sure deal for Instagram, and then you try it and you're like, it doesn't work for me. So it's not a sure thing, but give it a try and see. And either way, there's nothing wrong with making more connections with people. That is going to be invaluable. Whether or not the algorithm appreciates your time and effort, it's more important to be making connections with the people that could potentially be buying your artwork. Now, something that I've done in the past is anytime someone's interested, I will say, are you on my email list? Would you like to be on my email list? And we'll have these conversations in the direct message. I will send them my website or a specific piece right in the direct messages. So I would say if there's one thing that you want to up your game on with Facebook and Instagram is using their messenger, whatever, the messenger app and the direct message. Why do they not just call it the same thing? But anyways, how does that sound? Does that make sense? Any questions? Yes.
On Instagram, has anybody done the affiliate marketing?
Has anyone done the affiliate marketing?
Does it cost money?
I don't think so. It's free, and you can sign up to be an affiliate marketer, and you have a little icon when you're using like a brush or Daniel Smith paints or whatever you're using. There can be a little icon at the bottom where that's a link to your paint,
Right.
and then you get paid for advertising that item on your Instagram page.
Yes.
But there's a lot of instruction of how to do it online, so it's called affiliate marketing.
Affiliate marketing. Thank you. What's your name?
Kathy Castleton.
Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. So for those of you watching on YouTube, you can talk to Kathy if you didn't hear everything, but she's talking about affiliate marketing in specifically Instagram, and I do think there's something similar on Facebook.
I don't know,
Okay, that's okay. So the reason why I am suggesting to work on the direct messaging is because it doesn't cost anything. I have done some ads, and I did it when I was doing courses to help artists, with business stuff. And so we ran quite a few ads, and it was helpful. We got quite a few people that way. But I think that you can just really reach out to the people that are already in there. So don't feel like the only way to reach people is ads, okay? And sometimes what I found is if you do an ad or you promote a post, then they suppress you. Have you guys had that happen to you? Has anyone seen that? So you promote a post and they send you out into the world, you have all these people seeing it, and then the next time you post, nobody's seeing it because they want you to promote it again. They want you to pay for it again, right? So, okay, Tom.
Well, that's why I've wondered about the value of this professional or this business page that Facebook has. Why even use it if that
Yes.
suppression takes place?
I agree. And so my experience with Facebook, and I've had my own business page for years, but the problem is when I post on Instagram and you try to send it over so that it'll also go to Facebook, it goes to my business page, but everyone's following my personal page, and then if I do stories and I send it to Facebook, that goes to my personal. You guys, I don't have one thing up about my solo show on my personal Facebook, and that's where all my followers are, right? So it's kind of a mess. I agree with you, Tom. If you haven't set up a business page, I would say don't do it, because I know artists that never did it, and everyone is following their personal and business stuff right in their regular Facebook page and having great success.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, absolutely. We only have 24 hours in the day. We have to be really careful where we put our time. So thank you for bringing that up. I would say that is a mess for me. Facebook is a mess for me.
So, Katrina, I struggle a little bit with, I don't post very much in general, but I struggle a little bit so my personal page is also gonna be what if I have this following for art, but then I wanna post about my new puppy? I mean, just
I
talk to us
know.
a little bit about that.
It's so hard. So are you using Facebook, Instagram, or both? Both? Okay, so I have a good friend, an artist friend, her name is Crystal Harper. She posts a lot of pictures about her dogs and her chickens, but she also does her art, and it seems to be working for her. When she first started doing that, I could tell she wasn't getting as much interaction as other artists I knew, but then I think at some point the algorithm realized that she was painting the same things that she was posting about, and somehow she like got into some groove, and she's really doing well on Instagram right now, and I think she's doing well on Facebook, but obviously I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook. But this is what I think. I think that yes, you can curate, if you really want to have a curated Facebook or Instagram, I would say put all your personal stuff in your stories, which is what I typically do. I don't put a lot of personal stuff right now because we have 3 teenagers that do not want to be on my Instagram, right? They do not want me to talk about them. They don't want me to show, like, I'm lucky if I get to put a prom pickup once a year, you know, like that's kind of like, woo, thanks for letting me share that photo. Yes, Rob.
I have heard that it's risky to mix your personal with your art because it kind of confuses the search and it ends up linking you with, rather than people that are interested in art, interested in your dog or something like that. So
Right.
I think I can't remember where I heard that, but the suggestion was you ought to keep them separate.
Yes, and I'm just gonna reiterate what Rob said if anyone didn't hear that. So it is a suggestion. You can either have 2 accounts, one for your personal, one for your business, or just, you know, like I say, just put your personal either in stories or reels and then not have the reels in your squares, in your feed. So that's one option too. But I will say that Crystal somehow broke that trend. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna happen for everyone, but I do know there's lots of other artists that are sharing both, and somehow it's still working for them, and it might be the media, like maybe the subjects that they're painting are the same things that they're sharing. I don't know why it works, but I do think that Rob's onto something. If you wanted to just, if you really wanna go after the algorithm, you kinda have to play by their rules. The problem is, the rules change all the time.
So for us dummies, can you explain what this algorithm is?
Yeah, so for example, let's say we're on Rob's page and he does this awesome mountain print, remind me what it's called?
Of what?
Your print, there's like a specific name.
The reduction.
Reduction, yes. Okay, so there's this awesome reduction and you like it and you leave a comment, you say, Rob, I just love that, it's amazing. And then a few days later, you see another one of Rob's pieces and you like it again. You're telling the algorithm you want to see that. And so then Instagram or Facebook will automatically start showing you more of Rob's posts, plus more posts that look like whatever it was that you liked on Rob's page. I've been kind of liking a lot of hair stuff lately, like hairdos. And so it's in my feed, there's a lot of hair stuff coming up that I don't follow. And that's all because of the algorithm, right? So that's the hard thing is you have friends that are following you and they want to see updates on your family. And if they're liking your dogs or, you know, whatever, and then you post a painting and they don't like it and you put like a whole slur of paintings and they don't like any of those, the algorithm may not show your stuff to them, which is very frustrating, right? Yeah, so that's kind of the idea of the algorithm. It's meant to be showing you what you want, but come on, who really knows what you want other than you, right? And I think that somebody has a God complex.
And
Instagram.
And you also have to be careful what you like from your art account, for example.
Right.
If you end up liking things that are completely unrelated to the art, that confuses it as well. Algorithm is just another word for like the formulas that they use to trigger up suggested posts and linking up accounts with followers and those kinds of things.
Right, so what Rob's saying, just for the people watching at home, again, depending on what you're liking and interacting with, whether it's certain subjects, whether it's certain accounts, that's gonna all direct what you get to see in the next little bit. So if you think about how frustrated, I remember back when Facebook first put the algorithm in, and I had a bunch of friends that were pregnant, and I was reliant on Facebook to know when they had their baby, right? So I could say congratulations. Well, I missed them. I missed like 3 in a row, and I was so mad at Facebook. I was like, darn it, I have to be responsible for my own self and write down the dates that I should be paying attention to this. So anyways, it is kind of a problem, but okay, so we take all these frustrations. So where can we share about our art where we don't have to worry about algorithms? Or for example, how many of you, I'm sure everybody's familiar with Kirk Richards, and how many of you know his wife, Amy? You guys follow her? She just got hacked on Instagram. I just saw it yesterday. Lost her whole account. I don't know if she's gonna get it back. So how quickly could you lose your 500, 2,000, whatever it is, followers, these people that love you and everything you're doing? How easily could we wake up tomorrow and that's all gone, right? So what do we do instead? We've already talked about, well, we talked about 2 things. We've got our websites and we have our email lists. And so far, I don't know anyone that's been hacked in that way to where they've lost people, okay? So that's the beauty of both your website and your email list is you get to choose what is on there. And anyone that goes on there and opens your website, they're not gonna have an algorithm and say, oh, you know, so-and-so doesn't like this type of blog post, so I'm not gonna show it to them. No, they get to see everything that's on there. And the same thing goes for your collections. Let's say you put up a collection of mountains. They're not gonna say, oh, so-and-so only likes pets, I'm not gonna show them that collection. No, they get to see all of it, which is so nice. And it's the same thing with your email list. If people are opening their emails, they're still gonna get your email, okay? It might go to spam from time to time, but for the most part, it's gonna open up. Now, I'm just curious, how many of you on a regular basis buy things because of Facebook and Instagram? Okay, occasionally. Anybody do it on a very regular basis? Okay, how many of you buy things because of an email list that you're on? I'm seeing more hands. Okay, so then I guess the question is, are you on the email list and then do you go to their website and buy, or do you read the emails for a while and then you go to the, do you see what I'm asking? Is it an immediate thing or does it take a little while?
It depends.
It depends on the product, right? Sometimes it's the product, the price. So we tend to create things that are not a $10 Walmart special, right? So most of the things that we're gonna be creating, it's gonna take a little bit of time for people to be ready to buy. So the best thing that we can do is to literally just keep emailing them, keep putting information on our website, and that will help them get to know you and everything that you have to offer with your art, okay? Does anyone have, like, are there things about, I guess here's another question. How many of you are signed up for artist emails? How many of you, okay, we've got some, okay. So, I would say, how many of you now have your own email list and regularly send out emails? Okay, we have some. Okay, that's good. How many of you would like to put some effort into this department? How many of you think it's worth it? Okay.
How many of us hate getting artist emails?
Oh, darn it. Unsubscribe.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to
I'm just saying there's
unsubscribe.
another look at it, like, I'm sure it can be a wonderful thing for people who really want to see what you have, but there are some people that overdo it, and I get emails every day, and
Yes.
it's annoying.
Okay, so I really think you need to unsubscribe. For your mental health. For your mental health, I give you permission to unsubscribe. I think that it's, oh, go ahead.
Oh, you finished, sorry.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think it's good to be subscribed to several different artist emails because you need to know what you like. Chances are what you like in an email is what your collector is going to like in an email. It's not like a sure thing, but there is a good chance that you will attract people.
Oh, I see what you're
Do you
saying.
see what I'm saying? So
How other people are advertising in their emails, so
Right.
you know what you like.
you can see what you like, and if it feels authentic to you and it feels like it connects with you, then that would be a good strategy for you to use.
Or
Right.
what not to do.
Or
Send-
what
send out
not
an
to
email
do.
every day.
Once a month,
Yeah.
maybe. or
Once a month, I
Or
mean,
once every 2 months.
sure. I have a friend that only sends them out like quarterly, and I think that's probably probably a little bit less than I would like to receive. But I think once a month is like the perfect amount. But if you have a bunch of events and you want to send it out once a week for a couple months, I don't think anyone's going to be terribly upset. And if they unsubscribe, it's okay, because you just want the people on there that really want to be there, right? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I still feel like I don't know anything, and I have never received an email from an artist. I have a lot of, social media, it's so easy to get followers and so easy to, but I don't even know,
Okay.
that you could get emails or that you could create.
Right.
How do you get people's emails to even get your own list?
Sure, let's
Have
talk.
to ask them, it sounds
Yeah.
very laborious.
Okay, so there's several things that we can address in what you just
Thank
mentioned,
you.
and thank you for bringing all those things up. Number one, this is a challenge that I would give everyone here. This is not one of your things at the end where you strategize and you pick 1 to 3 items. This is a recommendation for everyone, okay? This is not gonna take a lot of effort. I would recommend that everyone is subscribed to at least 3 artist emails. And if you don't like them, please unsubscribe. Find someone you like. You are, this is what I tell people all the time, you're more than welcome to sign up for my email, and when you've had enough, just unsubscribe. I am not gonna be offended. I think it even says that at the bottom. We're still friends, right? Or something like that. It's totally fine. So if you go to most artist websites, somewhere in there, it should say email list. At the top of my website, it says, sign up for my email list for like sneak peeks and perks or something. I don't know what it says. Anyways, so there's a little banner at the top. Then if you're on my website for long enough, you'll have a pop-up that invites you to join my email list. And then I have within my menu, it says email or something like that. And so you can sign up for it. So I would recommend go ahead and sign up for my email list, and I'm not gonna be offended if you get off of it. It's totally fine. This is homework for you guys. This is research. So I would say pick at least 2 people that you feel like your collectors would be also buying their art, okay? So if you're a plein air and a landscape painter and you know your collectors would also like Tom's work, sign up for Tom's email list and follow it for a little while and see see how you can kind of see what suggestions you can use in your own email list. And yes, so this is one thing that I do try to tell people, is that in general, you want to share about one thing in your email, okay? So Rob mentioned that I had an article in 15 Bites. So I should just get on and say, I haven't done it yet, but I'll probably do it next week. 15 Bites did an article, here's a little snippet, you can read more here. Maybe pick a favorite quote, maybe put some pictures from my show, have some links, and that's it. Now, sometimes they're a little longer, like the show pieces that I'm showing, the pieces that I'm showing right now have a lot of symbolism, they're very large. You gotta talk a lot about things when they're large. You gotta make sure that people feel like they're getting a good deal, right? So I've actually put a lot of my statements right in the email. I'm trying to give them a little bit more. So every email has one painting, and it has the symbolism, and a link to go see more, or whatever. So I would say keep it simple. It doesn't need to be like your Christmas card letters that you get at the end of the year that we all enjoy reading, but I can only read one a day because it's like 3 pages, and I gotta get caught up with everybody and all their extended family and the kids and what the kids are doing and the grandkids, and I love that, but I can only read one a day, okay?
I unsubscribe.
Yeah, she's gonna unsubscribe. So I would recommend that our email lists should not look like that, okay? If you feel like your collectors really like that, go ahead, I'm not gonna be offended. But most of us do not want the Christmas card, letter, newsletter, the whole year review in one email. We want little snippets, okay? Something else you can do is that I know everybody is getting emails from people on a regular basis, whether it's, I don't know, who would it be? Like the chapter, you're getting it, don't you guys put out, how often you guys put out an email?
Twice a month.
Okay, twice a month. There's other things that you guys are signed up for. I'm trying to think, what are some typical things that people are signed up for?
Skechers, once a day.
Skechers, she's getting Skechers every day. So for the next week or so, when you open up an email, say, okay, how long is this? What do I like about it? What don't I like about it? And then implement that when you do an email, okay? Okay, let's talk about how to get people on your email list, right? The first thing that I would say, when you decide to start your email list, go back and look at all the sales that you've ever done. And you can either contact them or you can put them in the list and then just put out an email and say, I'm starting an email list and you bought something from me at one point, and if you'd like to be on this, wonderful. If you don't, there's a button that says subscribe at the bottom. So you can say that. You could also direct message or text a friend, or if it's somebody close to you, and just say, I'm starting an email list, would you like to be on it? So there's lots of ways that you could do that, but these are your existing contacts, okay? So I would say just go back, whether it's 10, 15 years, look at all your sales, all the people that have ever emailed you about your artwork, and put them on the list or ask them if they want to be on the list. Other ways, when you're going to do shows, there's a couple different things that you can do. How many of you have signed up for an email list at a show just because someone had a clipboard out? Has anyone done that? I used to do that all the time. Now, I am learning that some people don't like their emails to be out in the open because people can come by and take a picture and then spam you. So something that you can do instead is you can just have little pieces of paper, have people write it on there and put it in like a jar or a box, something really simple. I've done that at Swiss Days where I just said, I'm gonna do a giveaway, I don't even know what it was, and I'm gonna have a few winners. Anyone who signs up for the email list, you'll be in the drawing, and that's super helpful, right? Anytime you can give back something in return, people will participate a little bit more. Now, I will say a lot of people might unsubscribe, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. If you get, 5 out of the 10 that really want to be there, it's worth it. So that's one way that you can get people. Another thing that I do is whenever I go to shows and people come up and talk to me about my art, I say, would you like to be on my email list? Would you like me to send you emails from time to time? And they usually say yes. I've had a couple people say, I really do not like emails. That's fine, no big deal. At that point, you can ask them, would you like me to text you when I have a show? They might say yes, they may say, oh, it's okay. And then you just remind them about your website, give them your card, and hope that they stay in touch. So that's another thing I do when I make a sale. When I make a sale, I say, by the way, I have an email list. Would you like to be on my email list? And so gradually you're adding up all these things. I'm at the grocery store and maybe I have a purse and it has my art on it and someone's asking me about it. Oh, by the way, I have an email list. Would you like to be on the email list? So something else that I've done, and this is something we've done at shows, Carl and I, is that we just pull up the page on my website that's where they put their email in, and I will let them put it in. Because sometimes, I know this is maybe, I'm not trying to be rude, but some people's handwriting is hard to read, and so then you don't send them an email, even though you really wanted to, because it comes back to you and somehow it's not the right email. So I like doing that because then you know for sure that it's the correct email because they put it in. And if it still doesn't get to them, I mean, at least you tried, because they put it on there themselves. So that's another option. I'm trying to think. Those are the ones right off the top of my head that I can think of. Yes?
Do you use your personal email?
Okay, so I have an art email, but you could use your personal email. If you're just getting started, use your personal until you're ready. When I was first started, I did use my personal, and then when I was ready and I had an art email, then I just set it up. In the beginning, I think I just sent out emails from my Gmail account and I learned the hard way to BCC everyone, because you don't want everyone to get mad. I've done that on accident, left it off before, but anyways, then I would just send them an email just like that. But now I use Flowdesk, which I really like. There's of course MailChimp, there's Constant Contact. What does everybody else have? You guys have other, so Flowdesk, F-L-O and then desk. If anyone wants to sign up, I can give you a coupon, just message me about it. I got in when they first started.
Talk about the benefits of an email host.
Oh, the benefits of an email host. Okay, so when I switched to Flowdesk, so I went from Gmail to MailChimp, and then we went to Flowdesk, right? So I noticed that with Flowdesk, my open rate was much higher, okay? Because I don't know what it is, but Gmail over time, I think it has an algorithm too. So it might be hiding your stuff in a promotion folder or spam. It happens. What other things? Other benefits would be it's prettier. it's nicer. I can go in and I can,
It manages your
yes,
list, so if someone clicks unsubscribe, they're automatically unsubscribed. You don't have to go through your list and take them off.
I don't have to take people off. However, I've noticed that, sometimes I still have their contact, but they're just not in the list anymore. So again, there's lots of things, because maybe they bought something from you at one point, or maybe they decide to come back on. I've had people come back on the email list. So, I mean, I don't know. But you do get stats. You get to see who opens, what they open, like I said, the percentage, how many times they open. I had a cute guy today, I sent out an email, and this is an artist friend, and he clicked on that link 6 times, the same link. I'm like, wow, he liked that link. I don't know what's going on. Tom?
How does FASO, Fine Art Services Online,
Yeah.
are there places like that compare with?
Okay, this is a good question, because I've never actually used it, but I do know people that have used it.
I use it.
Rob uses it, so we probably need to be asking Rob specific stats. How do you feel about, like, do they give you the stats, like your open rate and things like that? Do you know who's opening your stuff?
Yeah, and they do have a newsletter email function, and, you know, the number ties to the level of account that you have. You can pay more and have, you know, a list of 500. I think the current thing I have is a max of 100, and I'm about there, so I'll probably need to upgrade.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have everything kind of in one spot.
Mhm.
You know, the newsletters, the email list, and as well as my website. It's easy if I've got a photo of a piece of art that I just uploaded that's already in the system, so I can just plug that into the newsletter when I send it out.
Right, so Tom, do you already use their,
No.
you don't use it?
I have fear of flying, and so, when it comes to that, so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get the right setup going.
Sure, okay, so I agree with Rob. If you want it to be simple, it might be a good place to start, but again, it sounds like after 100 subscribers, you gotta do something else.
Well, you just need to
You just pay
upgrade.
more?
Yeah.
So how much does it cost for the 100 subscribers? Is that what's included in your basic plan?
Hosting the website,
Uh-huh.
including transactions, you know, it's got e-commerce and everything, which is probably the biggest
Sure.
part of the cost. It's around $200 a year.
Okay, a couple $100 a year.
Is that the basic monthly rate
No,
service?
there's a
lower
lower tier.
one, A lower tier?
Yeah.
So I think I'm spending just over a couple $100 a year on mine. I'm using Shopify for my website. It's been great. I've also used, gosh, what do you have, Carl? Do you remember? Is it iPage?
Yeah, mine's that page.
Carl's doing iPage. I know another artist that does iPage, and they can make an email right in the system as well. Have you seen that in your, no?
Weebly's another platform. We use that for ISA.
Mhm.
There's also
Squarespace.
Squarespace, and I use
That's
that.
very popular.
I use that for Art of the Park.
Okay.
Um,
And can you do an email
yeah,
newsletter from Squarespace?
yeah.
So I would say that Squarespace is the most popular for fine artists that I've come across. That's the most popular of my friends' websites. So if you can do an email list from there, I think that's a great place to start. If you feel like if your open rates are not the way that you want, you might want to just, a lot of times these email companies will let you try for like a month or two. And so you could have the emails all ready to go, have like 4 of them ready, and then shoot out 4 during that free month and see how your open rates, if it's any better, and then you can decide if you want to switch, right? But, I mean, there's lots of things that we can talk about with that, lots of different strategies, but I think the key is, number 1, commit to serving your audience. Commit to connecting with your collectors and your future collectors. That would be number 1. And for you to commit to that, what does that mean for you right now? Does that mean getting a website? Does that mean starting your email list or doing a blog? What does that mean for each of you, right? And just start on one thing. If you're gonna start with your website, do your website and just work on that for a while. Don't try to do everything at once. That's like the worst thing you can do, because your brain's just gonna fry. So start with one thing, go at it till you feel comfortable, then add something else. Let's see, other questions about email list? You guys have other questions? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. This is all about you guys.
So I have a website that I've had for 2 or 3 years that just kind of, nobody, I finally started Instagram a few months ago and said, I have this website, but people will go on and I don't know how people find the website. I mean, because you have to go on there. I have had a couple of random people that have just figured it out and
Okay.
found me to look me up, but do you have to advertise on social media to get people to go to your website? And that seems like a pain to go.
It is.
If they're already on social media, why do they even want to go to your website?
Because they want to purchase. Or
Oh,
they,
just
or maybe you're giving content. Maybe you're giving content on your website that's not on Instagram. So I actually have a podcast. That's what I had Rob and my friends come on, and we did that little round table. It showed up on my YouTube channel, but I really just have a podcast. And so what's nice is that every time I do an episode, it goes in my blog. I put a little blog post, right? So if I do a podcast once a week and I do a blog post, then every week there's new content on my website. And so that's the benefit of people going to your website. Now, if you're only posting things on Instagram, that's fine as long as people see it and go buy it. But you should probably also be posting everything you're creating on your website, because then it stays there. It doesn't get lost in their feed after a couple days.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true.
Is your website in your Instagram profile?
I think it is.
Okay, so that's helpful too.
So I
And then
guess that's
this
helpful.
is another thing. Anytime anyone leaves a comment, just say, do you want me to direct message you my website? When anyone, comment website if you want, because the thing that, come on, Instagram, it's like through the roof with technology, and they can't let you click on a link in a comment? I mean, come on, has that driven anyone else nuts these past, I don't know, how many years has it been? It's like, when are they gonna do that? They're doing it on purpose, I'm telling you, they're doing it on purpose. Tom?
One thing I noticed is they seem to be anti-YouTube.
Okay,
There's
Yeah.
an enmity between the two
enmity.
groups. And when I've tried to take what I do on my channel on YouTube
Mhm.
and put it on Facebook or Instagram,
Right.
it's just their opportunity to shove it into the basement.
Totally, and I think you're onto something there, and I think this is the problem, is they want you to stay on their planet. They don't want you to visit other planets. They want you to stay on their planet, because that's how they make money, right? But again, it's so frustrating, because whether we're putting stuff on YouTube or we're putting stuff on Instagram and Facebook, it's their platform, it's not ours. We don't own that space. They're the ones making money off of it. So if we take all of our best content, and the priority is to go on the website or our emails then you own that. You own that content. They can't take it away from you. They can't shove it in the basement. That stuff is gonna get to your people. So that's why I would say that social media is great. It's great for a hello, welcome to my world. Come to my website and my email list. Yes, Tom.
Yeah, so that's another prompt to me to get a real website. So
Yes.
links can be made to that. But another thing I'm going to do is I have an exhibit this fall at Phillips Gallery.
Oh, cool.
And I've arranged with Phillips to, I'm gonna send them the links. They're gonna create QR codes.
Yes.
They'll be on the label of the paintings, so that when you go see the show, you can take a photo of that and watch the video of it.
That's perfect. That's so good. Yeah, there's lots of things that we can do, but I think you're right. Take your energy and put it where it's gonna give you the most bang for your buck. And what Tom is suggesting, who are the most important people that are helping you sell your work? If you're in a gallery, they need to be one of your top priorities. And so anything that you can do to get people into the gallery, into supporting you in that way, I would say that's a win-win. And again, that stuff's not gonna get shoved in the basement. Fortunately, Phillips is not gonna be like, oh, today Tom's show isn't part of the algorithm.
Actually, Actually, my show's in the basement.
Oh. Unless it's actually in the basement, but they are gonna tell people to go there. Okay, so going back to your question about how do you tell people about your website, obviously you got business cards, pass out those business cards like they're candy, that's super helpful. When you go, how many of you do like local markets where you can actually set up your booth? How many of you do that? Okay, have a little sign with your website on it. In the beginning, when Instagram was kind of big and I didn't have a whole lot of, when it was getting big and I was trying to increase my followers, I just I made a quick watercolor sketch of the Instagram logo and put my little handle and just put it in a frame and stuck it on the table. And you could do the same thing with your website. I'm pretty sure my banner that I take to Swiss Days, doesn't it say katrinaberg.com? Yeah. So I would say anywhere you can, get out your website. If you have opportunities to be interviewed by 15 Bites, or like I just went on Studio 5, make sure that either they know what your website is or mention it, right? If you're on a podcast or someone's talking to you or mentioning you, say, will you please mention my website and that I have an email list and people can sign up for it. And you just decide what's the most important thing for you. Maybe you say, I have a website with a blog that I update regularly. Anytime you're talking to people, just let them know that that's what you have. So I would say just figure out what is the most important thing. It sounds like Tom's going to focus on his website, which I think is so good. I would also say it's never too late. It's never too late to do any of these things. Just start with one thing that you think is going to be the most helpful and just keep going with the next.
You can go into your profile, of Instagram settings and actually print out a QR code that takes people right to your Instagram site.
Right, and so if you don't know how to do that, come talk to Rob, but yes, you can actually print out the QR code that will take people right to your Instagram. I don't know, does Facebook do that? I don't know,
do
you might be able
Facebook.
to find it. Something else that I noticed within the last couple weeks, that, you know, in your profile, when you can say one link, one website, and everyone started doing the link tree. I'm just gonna say it, how many of you are using the link tree? Oh, hallelujah, I'm not a fan, you guys, and the
Tell 'em
reason,
what
so
link
the
tree is.
link tree, basically, you would sign up for Linktree, you would pay like maybe $10 a month, I don't know what it is, to have one link that you could put on your social media in your profile, but then when they click on it, it pops up like 5 or 6 or 12 different links that they can choose from. So maybe there's your website and your gallery, like where you are on Phillips Gallery goes right to your page, or maybe there's a link to an interview you did with 15 Bites or whatever, right? So they give you, the problem is it's not taking people to your website. We want them to go to your website. That's your home, that's your planet. Please come visit me in my planet, okay? So it's very important, but I will say Instagram just made this change. You can put multiple links in your profile now. So how many of you saw that? I just saw it, like, it could have been last week, you guys, maybe it was the week before. So now I have 3 different links in there. I've got a link to my show page so people can just see my show pieces. I have a link to my email list, and then I have my website. I think those are the 3 that I put on there. Look at that. You can scorn on Linktree and still come out a winner, right? So yeah, I would say anything, if there's anything that's taking people away from your website, it's probably not worth spending the time and the money and the energy, okay? So that would be my suggestion for that.
Just one other comment
Yeah,
about Tom's
The show.
frustration with YouTube, and clearly, I don't do Facebook, but they're both the same. That Instagram is, not very friendly with YouTube, but they are and becoming more so video-centric to compete with the TikToks and things
Yes.
like that. So
Yes.
you'll actually do really well if you take your YouTube videos and convert them into reels
Uh-huh.
on YouTube and post them.
On Instagram.
On
Instagram.
Instagram, and Rob's
Or
right.
YouTube.
They want you to not leave Instagram and Facebook, so they're gonna give you every opportunity to put those videos on their platforms. Again, for me, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to put that video in one more place, and I have to wait for it to upload. Now, if it's a long-form video of you doing a painting demonstration or something, or describing it, usually descriptions you can fit in their form, but you can just take a portion of it and put it on Instagram or Facebook, and then say to see the full video, click in my profile, it'll take you to the YouTube video.
Yeah, I've done speed paintings
Yeah.
where I take the whole video and I take it down to a minute.
A minute, yeah.
That's had some very good response.
Right, people love that. They love to think that art is easy, don't they?
Yeah.
It's so easy. It took you 1 minute, yes.
One marketing person told us a while back that there's a timing that's the best for posting on Instagram and Facebook, and they mentioned coffee and cocktail hour. Like those 2 times in the day, they find that people are opening their social media, you know, either in the morning with their
Yeah.
coffee or whatever they
In
do
the
in the
evening.
afternoon.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if you had any experience or thoughts in that area.
What time zone?
What time zone? So that's the hard thing, is that if all your followers are here in Utah, then you can kind of guess. Those are great suggestions. In fact, I got on recently and, you know, in your, gosh, what is it, your insights tab, it'll tell you when people have been on lately, your followers.
Yeah.
And mine said from noon till 6. That's kind of a wide window, but you know, so for some reason, maybe my followers are stopping during lunch and opening up Instagram just to check up on what's going on. And then maybe at 6 o'clock, maybe they're done working, they're checking to see what's going on again before they go on with the rest of their day. But this is something that you can follow. Now, it wasn't like that before. There was a time when, for me, the best time to post was about 8 o'clock at night, because by then everyone was kind of slowing down their day and they were finally relaxed, and then they could get on social media. And then the other thing that I liked about posting at night was that the people that get up really early, and that's the first thing they do, they would see it in the morning. But again, it changes, but you can get on there regularly and just pay attention to what it's telling you. I'm a horrible person. Sometimes I don't think they're being honest with us, so even if it tells me that my people are only on from 12 to 6, what about my top 5 collectors? What if they're the collectors that only get on for coffee at 8? You know what I'm saying? So at some point, I just throw it out the window and say, I'm gonna post because I have time to post. So I did hear one person say, the best time to post is when you're going to be on the app. So if you get on Facebook and Instagram, you spend 10 minutes interacting with people that you follow, that tells the algorithm I'm on the app. So you spend about 10 minutes doing that. You leave some comments, you like on some things, then you go watch some stories. You kind of covered all your bases, and then you put your own stories in. This is my strategy. I put in a few stories to kind of, again, warm up the app, and then I post.
Yeah.
Now that's work. And then you gotta stay on for a few minutes and respond to people's comments.
Don't you think that liking and commenting on other people's posts tells the was it a logarithm?
Algorithm, yeah.
Algorithm.
Hey, yeah, you're fine.
Logarithm.
It's all good.
Algorithm that you're interested in them, and perhaps they should be interested in you. Don't you think?
I do think that there's something about that as well.
Yeah.
I really like the way you said it. I think I'm gonna call it the logarithm now, because I don't totally trust it, you guys. But I do think there's some truth in that, and I mean, there are some great people on Instagram and Facebook that you can follow and just kind of see what the trends are. You could even put in the hashtag Facebook trends, Instagram trends, and just see what comes up. And if it seems like something that's doable to you and it seems authentic to you and to like what you represent, you could try it out and see what you think. I just think the reason why they say the best time to be on is when you're on is because then you're gonna take the time to interact with other people. Like I say, when I post, I'll try to stay on for a little bit if people are making comments, so I can get in the DMs and really interact with people while I'm on there. And so I think that's kind of a fail-safe way to go. I hate it when I'm like, I have 2 minutes to post, I throw it on there, and then I come back 5 hours, I'm like, oh, I should have been interacting with people. Oh, darn it. Now I got all these things I gotta respond to. So again, I think do what works best for you, but ultimately, whatever is gonna help you get back in the studio and also be the most present with your collectors and your people, then go with that. Even if the trendsetters say it's not a good strategy, if it works for you and your people, that's the most important thing, right? Yes.
Do you think hashtags are as important as they used to be at the beginning of Instagram? I mean, in the beginning, everybody had 100 hashtags in every post they made, and now you're seeing posts with just nothing, or no
Right.
hashtag.
So I think that you're right. I don't think that it's as impactful as it was. And one of the reasons why is because now we've all been using that hashtag for like the last 5-6 years. And so remember the days when you would use the hashtag and then you would go click on it and you would see there were only like 50 posts or maybe 2,000 posts, and you're like at the top because there's only 2,000 posts. Well, now there's like 20,000 or 200,000 people using that same hashtag. So it's really hard for people to find you unless you're a huge account, right? So again, you have to ask yourself, is it worth my time and effort to use these big hashtags where it's already blown out by millions or hundreds of thousands of people? So when I was advertising for the show, I kind of ran across that hashtags that worked for me in the past. I was making no traction because there were like hundreds of thousands of people using it now. So what I started doing was trying to find really small niche tags. So the Utah ones are still working pretty well. Utah artist, Salt Lake artist, Utah gallery stroll. I mean, there's just lots of, try to do local things, I would suggest. And then of course, within your niche, reduction prints. There's probably not a ton of those, so that's good for you, Rob. Who else has like a small niche that you can tap into with the hashtags? Anyone doing anything like particularly special? I don't know. Like for example, if you're down in Moab and you're painting, Moab plein air. That might be smaller than American plein air or just plein air.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Is Moab plein air huge?
Moab plein air is probably pretty big.
But with Moab
Moab.
plein air?
Moab anything.
Moab, anything? Okay, so you gotta get on there, you gotta test it out. I'm not gonna tell you the best ones right now, you're gonna have to find the best ones for you. But again, you could follow other accounts that are similar to yours and see what hashtags they're using, and then you can go in and say, oh, this person used this hashtag, you go click on the hashtag, you're like, I don't even see them on here, maybe it's not a good hashtag for me to use either, right? So again, I think hashtags are great, but don't kill yourself trying to find the perfect hashtags. The important thing is to get the information out there, say hello to people on the social media, and then get them to your website and your email list or your blog or wherever you're gonna put your content, right? Any other questions about that stuff? I feel like there were some other things that we should, yes?
This is a question about the website.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have a website, and as far as directing traffic to it, you know how you do Google search, and you might just put in, you're looking for ceramic sculptures or something. Is that an extra, thing, separate, I mean, is that just automatic when you have a website, or do you have to add that, like a search engine?
There's so many ways to answer that question. So you've got your SEO, so you've got,
That's with it, okay.
yeah, so that's search engine optimization. So you have your keywords that can be put
Yeah.
into your website. It's also the words that you use if you're doing a post, like a blog post, or you put a painting on and you do a description, and then you have those meta tags that you can tag. Those are how people are gonna find you. Carl's so much better than me at this. Do you wanna add to anything that I just said?
Sure, so,
Can you explain meta tag to us?
yeah.
Yeah, just come up here and use the, and then I promise we'll get to you.
So SEO is a little tricky. It's basically Google's algorithm, right? Like you got Instagram.
Our favorite word,
algorithm,
our favorite
The
word.
algorithm. So you have to think about what people, your clients, would be searching to try to find you, right? So my company, I'm a landscape architect. So I have a little firm, 3 employees in Midway, and I found that when people are searching to find a company like mine, they search landscape design Utah, landscape architect Utah. So I've created my website to say those words, like on every page, it says landscape design Utah, hire landscape architect. So Google now knows when you search those keywords, I'm gonna be at the top, right? So now, you could get out your phone and search landscape design Utah, I'll be #1 every single time.
With a tiny firm.
With a tiny firm, and I did that all myself. So those are called keywords. So you gotta find out what keywords you want on your website. So if you have one of Katrina's, she calls herself the candy-colored artist. So she puts a lot of candy-colored verbiage on her website. So you gotta work on keywords. There's things you can do to research keywords. There's a website called Uber Suggest, like Uber, the car ride. Uber Suggest. You can put your website in there and it'll give you free information about your website, about where you rank, what keywords you rank for. It's a great tool to get familiar with. This is kind of, I've been doing this for 7, 8, 9 years and it hurt my brain for a long time. So take it slow. But use that website, Uber Suggest. Put your competitors' website in there. See what keywords they're ranking for. Another thing with SEO, search engine optimization, is you want other websites to link to your website. So if you're, what are some art websites? Like
Okay, well, like
Utah,
15
15 bytes. So
bytes.
15 bytes did an article, and they had a link that had your website, katrinaberg.com, on there. That tells Google your website's more important than someone else's website. So those are some things you can do. Work on keywords for your website and try to get other websites to link to your website. Those are like the 2 most important things you can do.
So that's just an automatic thing that you don't have to, like.
No,
find.
so what Google will do about every month, Google has what they crawl your website. So Google will automatically crawl on there and find out what your website's about. And here's the other thing with artists, you guys are visual, right? Well, Google has a hard time understanding what an image is. So you can have a lot more text on your website than you think. So that's what I did with my website, because we're landscape architects, we're visual too, right? You want to see what the project looks like. So I learned that I had to put a lot of text on there, which makes your website not as pretty, but Google knows how to read text. It doesn't know how to read images as well, so.
Don't the websites provide a place for you to put the metadata? Like,
Yeah.
And just tag everything?
Yes.
I know Fine Art America does. You create your own meta tags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what a meta tag is, it's like the hidden information. So like at the top of your website, for me, I say landscape design, but I could say hidden within that, it's like landscape design in Midway, Utah. So meta tag is basically hidden text that tells Google what your page is about. So each page, so if you have 5 pages, you want 5 different meta tags. So I would have like, this is my contact page for a landscape architect in Utah. This is my projects page for a landscape architect in Utah. So they need to vary a little bit. You don't want your meta tags to be the same on each page. And each website host, how you enter those meta tags may be a little bit different. But those are really important.
I would hope FASO does it for you somewhat automatically. I'm not a FASO client, but theoretically, that should be a no-brainer.
I do think that FASO tends to rank fairly high, like when I've searched for things on Google, thank you, Carl, I've noticed that FASO websites sometimes will come up a little bit higher than other artists because it's all art websites, and so Google already knows if you're a collector looking for art, oh, this is gonna be important for you. So that would be another reason to go with FASO, and you could do a little research for those of you trying to decide which website to go with. Do you want Google to just send people to you? Do you want your collectors? Like, what are your priorities? Is SEO your priority where you don't have to do it? Or are you willing to send people there yourself? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm okay sending people there myself, and then we spend a lot of time
Yeah,
trying to get our websites.
one thing to think about, the art space on the internet is very, very competitive, right?
There's millions of artists, right? For my little firm of landscape architects, we're kind of a niche. There's not that many firms in Utah. So I'm
competing against 20 other firms. You guys are competing against.
Hundreds,
Yeah,
thousands.
exactly.
Yeah, and that was, so Carl mentioned Uber Suggest, and Uber Suggest has like a program that you can actually pay for them to help you for a while. They can help you figure out the keywords that are the best for you. And we've worked with a couple different, we worked with Uber Suggest, and then there was another guy that we worked with about SEO, and he was like, I don't even know where to start because you're selling your art to the whole world. And so we were like, let's just focus on Utah. Or let's really focus on Heber Valley and Midway, right? And so I did have some cute bikers, like there's these cute ladies that ride bikes and they like to go on a bike ride and then stop in an artist studio and get to know them and their work. It's really kind of cute. And so they just Googled like Midway artist, and there were a few of us that popped up, and they picked me because there were a few of us. I may not have been the number one, but then they clicked on my website and it looked fun, so they came to my house, which was very cool. Going back to the keywords, so I would say, and I'm just gonna put out my opinion and everyone can correct me, I would say that your keywords are more important than hashtags, okay? So once you decide what your keywords are, use those regularly. So when I do a post, I try to use the same little tags, use the same verbiage if you can. Like for example, one of the keywords we went after for a while was like floral artist, right? Something like that. And so I need to make sure that I'm using that in my blog posts, that I'm, using those with my tags. And same thing with YouTube, it's the same thing. Tom?
I was scratching my head.
Oh, scratching his head. He's still with us. Okay, so I would say those are really important. And then I'm trying to think, other things with websites. Was that your whole question for website, or do you have other questions?
So that was a really good answer, and I also have noticed some strange, I kind of wonder if they're scams. Have you had very many scams where it's just,
Like email scams, or
yeah,
what kind of
they
scams? Yes.
email you and they're interested in buying, but they have this
For their wife,
elaborate
for her
story.
anniversary.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
anniversary, and they're.
And they can't pay with a credit card.
They can't pay with a credit card.
They're going on a
We don't know what they
voyage.
can pay with this.
We haven't really responded
says-
much to.
Just tell me, like something between 500 and 5,000.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
a 10-year anniversary.
I just, for a while there, I just replied with my website, said, here's my website, you can purchase directly on the website. Most of the time, they don't reply, and
Right.
so I know it's a spam, but sometimes after you see the same verbiage, I just don't even reply. Tom?
Another challenge is digital currency
Yes,
on Instagram, and I
Uh-huh.
encountered it on LinkedIn.
okay.
People wanting me to sell
NFTs?
NFTs.
Yeah, that's the latest
through
one that I've noticed
NFTs.
too.
And of course, recently, digital currency's in trouble with the government, so all that's been kind of shut down, but who
Right,
knows where that's going to go in the future, and
yeah.
be careful and be leery of it.
Yeah, totally, and this is what's great about this group, is that if it sounds too good to be true, reach out to your friends in the group, bring your questions and your emails to these meetings and just show them to people, because at least you can have a few other people say, you're not crazy, I've seen these, or I don't think that's a good idea. Yes,
The other day I had 2 NFT
yeah,
messages, 2 different names, 2 different pictures, but the verbiage was word for word
right,
on each message.
exactly.
So, yeah.
And something else that I'll do, if
Just
it's,
ignore 'em.
sometimes their English isn't very good,
Yeah.
and so, you kind of know there. But sometimes I'll just take their email address and put it in the search engine. I like to use Brave, but if you use Google, just stick it in there and push enter and see what comes up. A lot of times people say this is a scam account. I'm trying to think. There was something else that you said that had me thinking. But yeah, there's just a lot of crazy things out there. The latest one that I'm getting a lot of emails about people wanting to help me with my website because my website isn't getting any traffic. I'm like, or they'll say something, your website, you don't have this or that. I'm like, did you go on my website? I'm pretty sure this is just like a form email, right? I'm like, I don't think they really want to help me.
It's probably the same people that want to renew your car warranty.
Right, the car warranty, it's like the new car warranty. So keep an eye out for these and definitely share them with your friends, even if you know it's a scam, just to give people a heads up so that they don't lose their mind over it, right? Let's see, there was a few other things. Oh, email or website, Carl's right. It's really hard for artists to put words because we just think that our art is just gonna sell itself. But if we want Google to crawl properly, we have to put plenty of words. Another thing is if you can get a video on your main page, your front page, that's awesome. I haven't figured out how to do it in mine. Like a video, any type of video. It could be you painting, it can be you talking about your art, it can be, I mean, just there's so many, any short or long video, a short's probably better. But if you can get that on the front page, for some reason, I don't know, the Google algorithm, whatever, it likes it. So that would be something that I would suggest if your email or your website can do that. I'm just trying to look to see, oh, testimonials. I know a bunch of you have like testimonials from collectors. Put them down there. That's words that you didn't have to write, right? So that's a good thing to put on there. Let's see what else. Oh, okay. How many times okay, I just had this just the other day. Go ahead.
So if someone adds the word, so do you ever mention their name or?
Yeah.
To protect privacy?
For me, if it's somebody who has a website and a business, I'll link to their website or business because everybody likes that, right? If it's just a family friend, you could just put their first name, you could put their first initial or just their initials, whatever you can always ask them.
Okay.
Do you care if I use a testimonial? Would you like me to link to you? Would you like me to just use your initials? Just ask them, and they'll appreciate that.
Right.
Shoot, what was I gonna say about websites? Oh, okay, so just last week, a girl reached out and she said, I can't afford your art, do you do prints? I'm like, okay, I have prints available, it's on the front page, it's also in a tab, but for some reason, sometimes people can't find it. So, always have multiple ways for people to find your stuff. So if you're selling prints, like I said, on my very front page, there's a little collection, it shows some prints, right? And you can click on one of them, it'll take you to all the prints. But I also have in my menu a tab that says prints. So it's always good to have multiple ways for people to get to the things that are most important. Just like I talked about the email list, how I have the pop-up, the banner, the page, just have multiple ways because for whatever reason, when people get on your planet, sometimes they get lost, right? Sometimes it happens. And I would like my website to be super clean and simple, but it's hard. It's hard. So I would say just give them lots of opportunities, yes.
I was gonna ask Rob, do you put prints on your FASO website?
That's all I have.
That's all you have?
Oh, yeah, because that's what he does.
But they're original prints.
True.
I have done.
But do you do multiple of one?
Yeah, I have done one Giclée reproduction of a print I did that sold out in about a week, an edition of 20, and there were so many people that were disappointed not to get the original. I made an exception. It's hard for me because when I describe my work as prints, a lot of people that don't understand the process will think, oh, so they're copies? And so I have to be careful how I describe it. So it's hard for me to do reproduction prints because then it just confuses it even more. So.
Right.
Do you do that? I mean, well, I was just thinking about FASO because that's what I have.
Right.
They have if there's a clear way to say original or print on that, I just need to.
What are you doing for your art?
Just oils.
Oils, okay, so then you just say this, in your description, you say, like I have a page just for originals and then I have a page for prints.
I see.
So let's talk about prints for just a second. So again, most of us have high priced items that we're trying to sell. And so the best way to introduce people to your work, to get people, invested in you is to have price points. You want to have varied price points, okay? So obviously prints are great. If you don't like prints, you can always do products. I mean, how many of you have ever put your art on like phone cases or purses or, have you guys done that?
Yeah, Fine Art America.
Fine Art
They put it on
America.
anything.
Right, you can put it on anything.
Yeah.
So you don't have to put it on everything, but pick one thing that you're willing to offer that's gonna be a lower price point. And
Right.
that's just a way for people to be constantly seeing you. My friend used to do these little magnets. She had these tiny magnets with her art on it, and she'd sell tons of them, but they would end up on people's refrigerators, and where do we all the time. We go to the refrigerator, it's like just a free ad for her work every time they went to the refrigerator. So I think, you know, those are great ways to remind people about your art till they're ready to buy something and to spend more money. Yes?
So I put on the table, just to give people ideas, but I did this print, Atelier does cards.
Okay.
So I put a card with an envelope there of one of my paintings. And I think it was $30 for 10 really nice heavy-duty cards, you know,
Right.
so it's like $3 a card.
Good.
And so that's another.
Yeah, I totally agree. Cards are great. No cards are great. I like to give those to collectors. I like to give collectors things just to tell them thank you. So that's one thing that I'll hand out. Yes, Tom?
I'm sorry, at what point are you underselling your original work?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, okay, so you have to decide where that point is, right? And for me, I'm really lucky because it's thick paint and it's shiny if you get up and catch the light. I can't print a print to look like that. And so for me, my hardest thing is that people see my stuff on Instagram, but then they go see it in real life, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that's what it was gonna look like, right? So my thing is I need to get people to see it in person, and your work is the same way. The oil paintings, they're rich, lots of color, and so for me personally, I just have a few things that I offer in prints. Usually I sell them first. I don't just offer prints of everything. And so that helps me a little bit, but if you don't want to do a print, don't do a print. If you feel like it's going to take away from everything you're doing, that's fine. I started doing a lot of larger pieces, and so for me to sell little prints of things, I feel like it's not as bad because it's not the same thing. But you have to decide what works for you, and there's nothing wrong with saying that you don't want to do prints. It's totally fine. But I would say have price points. So maybe that means for you that every once in a while you sell some minis. Once a year, you do the tiniest that you ever do, and that's your lowest price point that you have, right? What are some other ways that you guys have been able to do different price points?
I just want to ask Tom if he has people, when he does his 1 minute sped up videos, I say, well, how can you charge $4,000 for something that takes you a minute to do?
Right?
I've never had someone that naive.
They're like, well, just guess how much my hourly rate is,
Yeah.
right?
But, yeah, you know, it's just stunning to me how we have to work so much harder as individual artists when we used to be able to depend on galleries.
Right,
And galleries are proving to be less and less effective
yes.
at promoting and selling artists' work. And I'll never retire. I'm retirement age, but I'll never retire.
Right.
That's just the reality I think you're walking into as a visual artist.
And some of us are happy not to retire, but if you want to retire, you would like that option, right? I don't know. I think the more control that you have over your art business, the more that maybe you won't have to, I don't know. I'm just saying, how can I say this in the best way? The more control that you have over your art business, the more control you're going to have over your finances, right? So I'm just going to be honest. I sent out the email this morning to over almost 1,800 people, right? That's something I own. You know what I'm saying? So my friends went to, one of my friends went to a gallery in Texas. She was doing gallery shopping just to see who she wanted to try to approach. And they said, how many email subscribers do you have? She's like, maybe a couple hundred. He's like, come back when you have 10,000. So my nearly 1,800 is nothing, right? So some of those galleries, they expect you to come because you're bringing 10,000 people with you. So
Well, then the question becomes.
Why do you need the gallery?
Is
Why
there
go
taking
there?
50%
right.
worth it?
Why
Right.
is it?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, if you're putting your content on your website, in either your blog or your email, and you're constantly
And you're
serving
painting.
people, right, and you're painting, you're creating it, is it worth it for you
Yeah.
to give it to them, or is it worth it for you to take control of your own stuff, right?
Tell them what Kurt's told you about.
Oh, okay.
Need you.
Yeah, so Kirk, I was talking to Kirk Richards one time, and he said, galleries, okay, you want to get into galleries, but once the galleries want you, you don't want to be in the galleries. Am I saying it? So basically what he's saying is he got into some galleries, it wasn't the right timing, you know, he hadn't built up his audience enough, he started doing those great home, did anybody go to his home tour this last weekend? Anyways, he started doing the home tours, and people started just coming to him by themselves and organically. So then by the time he became famous and they wanted him, he didn't need him, right? And he opened up his own gallery, and he's helping artists do other things. So, I mean, there is a place for galleries, and there are some amazing galleries out there, right? If you can get one, like cute Robert Duncan just lives around the corner for me. He's been in one gallery his whole career. One gallery. And that's exciting, right? So it's basically him in the gallery, and they've done well. But again, like you're saying, Tom, like things have changed. Things are going to continue to change. We're going to have to keep pivoting as artists and as entrepreneurs. But I would just say, if you are willing to put in the time to take ownership of your art business, I think you'll be happy. I think that you'll find different windows will open for you, and you know, you'll have opportunities. Look what Rob's done with that awesome Art in the Park show. I mean, one time that was like huge success, and we can lean on each other. I have had so much success just from collaborating with other artists, which is so awesome, right? I'm going to tell you a story of something that just happened today. So I get a text from Carl's cousin. He grew up next to his cousin in Heber, and he said, "Hey, this is Corey, my friend, his wife. It's her birthday this week, and she's a big fan of your art, and she wants art for her birthday. Is it okay if I give him your contact info?" Yeah, sure is. And he's like, "Or is there a better way to contact you?" I'm like, "No, go ahead, give him my contact info." So within a half hour, he calls me, and he says, "My wife, she's been following you for a while. She's on your email list. She loves your work." And I was like, "Okay, great." And he's like, "How do I buy your art?" I'm like, "Okay, well, I have a show right now. I have a solo show in Salt Lake," because they live, Farmington, so that's a little closer than Midway. I'm like, "I have this solo show, and it's got most of my art, and you could go until the end of the month, anytime before 5:30 today." Anyways, he's like, "Oh, great, I'll take my wife." And he's like, "How about in your studio?" I'm like, "I do have a few pieces in my studio, but not a whole lot. But if you wait till July, we'll have a lot more in my studio that's coming home." So anyways, we talked, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna take my wife, and he texted me just a little while later, "I talked to my wife, we're coming, we're gonna go to the gallery at 3:30, we're so excited." I'm like, "Awesome." So then they call us. What time was it? 4:30, maybe they were there for an hour and a half. And he calls, and they're on speaker, and he's like, "Oh, we're so excited," and then he tells me that she knew about my work like 6 years ago. She's been following me for 6 years. I don't know who she is. I don't know her at all. I don't know her. And then, so of course, as soon as he told me his name, it's kind of a unique name, and so I went into my flow desk to see if anyone had that name, and sure enough, there's a gal that's been signed up since 2020. I'm like, "That's amazing. That's when the world fell apart. How did she find me? I wasn't doing any shows. I don't know how she got on my email list." But she was on my email list these past 3 years. So sometimes it was once a month, sometimes it was every 3 months, sometimes it was once a week. But she was getting emails from me, okay? So I talked to her today, and she said, "I've been following you for 6 years. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." They want to buy like 2 of those big paintings, you guys. I mean, how exciting is that? Sometimes does it take 6 years? Sometimes it takes 6 years. There's other people that get on my email list, and they'll start following, and then they'll come to a big show, and this is why I think it's good to have opportunities for people to buy your work, to see your work in person. Whether it's a solo show at Phillips or a group show with the organization, or you do a market or whatever, give people an opportunity to come and buy your art, because they need that opportunity. Even if it's just like an open house at your house, give them an opportunity to come and buy your art. And so again, they might be on your email list for a week and then buy something. But most of the time, most of my collectors are on there for a little while. Not all of them have said they've been on there for 6 years. But, sometimes it takes a while, okay? So, did I kind of give the exciting part about that? I think I gave the main points about that. So, to be continued, I'll let you know what happens, but again, I've had lots of stories about this. Like, I had another big piece that was up at Anthony's Fine Art for the Certain Women Art Show. This is several years ago. And a collector that I had already bought several little pieces from me, she had gone, she went twice and just stood there and kept looking at it. Then the show ended, and guess what? I picked up the painting and took it over to the 135 show at the art market. It was just like perfect timing, hung it up, she came to the show and she bought it that night. Everyone at the show was cheering, like quiet cheering, all my artist friends. Carl's carrying this huge painting out, like nobody had ever sold that big of a painting at 135 or art market before. And everyone's like, jumping up and down and like so happy. It was like a win for the whole show. Everybody it was a win for. And ever since then, she started selling more big pieces, right? Which is cool. So Erin Barrett sold a couple really big pieces with Nanette. But again, if you want to sell something bigger, paint it, create it. Nobody's gonna buy it if you don't make it, right? If you don't make that piece, they can't buy it. One of my best friends says, nobody wants to buy big watercolors. I'm like, well, how do you know? Did you sell some? Did you put them out there? Well, no. Like, well, you won't know until you put it up there. So again, the point of this story, though, was that cute girl, she had been buying my art for years, small little pieces. Then she went to the Certain Women show twice. Then she came a third time, asked me about the piece. I told her about some more of my thoughts about it, my personal experience with it, and then she bought it. So it's not like it just happens, right? It takes time. And she probably watched me posted about it on Instagram and talk about it on my email list several times. And she probably got on my website and looked at it before she bought it, right? So there's all these little things, and I know it's a lot. But again, start tonight, go find 3 artists' email lists and get on there and start finding what you like so that you can share something similar. And then I would say pick 1, 2, maybe 3 things we talked about tonight and commit to do those things, because I promise that those little things will eventually add up. How are we doing time-wise? I don't even know. We're still okay. Were we supposed to take a break? We did one last time.
We kind of stopped doing that
Oh,
during
you did,
COVID.
so it's okay?
So,
So we still have 20 minutes, which is good, because I can talk forever, but do you guys have more questions about like email lists and websites? Do you have other questions about that? Yes?
I have a question, because I'm kind of new at this. So, if you sell the original, how, do they own the copyright? Can you do
Oh, this is a good question. Who wants to answer this for her? Everybody should know this.
They do not own the copyright.
Thank you, Jean. You are the creator. You will always be the creator, okay? Now, there are some people that will say, I don't ever want you to reproduce this. Can I purchase the rights so that you won't ever, has anyone ever had that happen to them? Sometimes with commissions.
I had a commission that I lined up, actually, for
When
Kurt.
I buy paintings, I always request that, because I don't buy originals if they don't sell me the right to it.
Okay, so okay, tell me your name.
I'm Renee.
Renee, so Renee, okay, this is hard for artists, because typically artists don't know how much to charge for that. So do you say, I'll pay you this much more to own the rights so that you don't reproduce that piece?
Usually I just go off of the price that they're asking for the original, and they'll some of them will, if it's a bigger piece, just for the sake of closing the sale, they will just include them with the painting.
Okay.
Or sometimes they will just oh yeah, I'll do it for an extra $1,000.
Okay, and again, it probably depends on, depends on how much the piece costs. You could probably just do a flat rate percentage, but they might just close the deal with it. That's good. Tom?
I heard someone say that the artist should sell the painting for the price of the painting again.
Okay,
So if it's $2,000 painting,
right,
the buyer wants to own the copyright,
Okay.
it's $4,000.
right.
I don't know if that's,
Sure, but that's somewhere to start from. So I think the main thing is we need to hear people's experiences So then you can decide what's best for you. So when somebody asks you this, you at least have something to jump off from. You can call Tom, you can call Renee and say, what do you think that I should do in this situation? I think the biggest thing is anytime you come across something and you don't know, say, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. You know, and that's totally okay to say, because how many times have you been like, oh, maybe a couple $100 more? You're like, no, I should have been like Renee and charged another 1,000, right? So it's okay to say, I've never done this before, just give me a little bit of time and I'll get back to you. But again, this is something that you need to decide, but I do think that that's a good point. Some people don't want you reproducing them, so.
I did a little matchmaking for an interior designer friend looking for kind of a specific piece of art, and I connected him with Kurt Richards.
Yeah.
This was a very expensive piece once they finally settled on, and they wanted him to agree not to reproduce it.
Right.
And he just refused.
Okay, and so again, it is your prerogative as the artist to say, Renee, I love you, but I can't agree to that. And Renee's gonna be like, maybe I'll just agree this one time, but the rest of the suckers, I'm gonna get those reproduction rights. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, and again, you are the artist, you're the head honcho. You get to decide what you do with your art business and how you're gonna run it. And if you wanna do it differently than your friends, it's totally fine. You need to feel good and comfortable about whatever you choose to do, right?
He was willing to walk away from a $20,000 plus piece.
Oh, and so he did, he walked away from it?
He was willing to.
Oh,
They backed down.
the collectors backed down and they said, okay, that's fine?
He said, I may never do anything with it, but I'm not willing to say that I never will.
Right, and I think, yeah, again, you have to do what's best for you, and in that situation, it turned out, it worked out.
Actually, they bought another one about the same price.
They bought another one at the same price, not bad, not bad. Okay,
I was
yes.
just gonna say, I had a commission, somebody asked for it specific, I didn't think anybody else would be interested. I had all these people asking for prints of the same thing, and so I just informed the buyer.
Yeah,
I'm making prints of this.
Right.
I do think it's courteous when it was a commission to inform.
oh, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think you can approach it in different ways, but I do think that it's important. And I had this great opportunity to work on, I created a painting for a wedding, and then they used that painting, all the stuff in it, and they made tablecloths. We made tablecloths for them, and then they used it in all their graphics for the wedding and all kinds of fun stuff. It was like their press kit, I guess. But they wanted little purses made for all the bridesmaids as like a bridesmaid gifts. So we did that. And so then I told her, I'm like, I will never sell these to anyone else because this is for your wedding. And the mom's like, no, you can sell it to whoever you want. So again, it depends on the collector, but I agree, have a conversation, always be really upfront, especially with commissions. You just never know how they'll feel. Sometimes I've done a commission before and I'm like, oh my gosh, people want more like this, do you care? And they were like, no, it's great, I love that it's a success for you, like make as many, like I'll change the colors or whatever, a little bit different. But some people are just happy that it's a successful thing for you. Some people want it to be something special. So I think just have the conversation and of course stand up for your beliefs and make sure you feel comfortable with it, right? Okay, other questions? I'm just gonna look at my notes to see if there was like specific things that I thought that would be good for us to talk about. Okay, so let's talk about sales because business of art is all about sales, right? So we talked a little bit about price points. Make sure you have varied price points. And then I think it's really important to keep your collectors past and future, just keep them as your priority. And so, like I said before, you want to commit to your collectors, but we really want to love on our current and past collectors because how much easier is it, like for example, with the story that you were talking about with Kirk, he was able to sell another piece, which is great, right? So how many of you, it's typical for people to fall in love with your work and not just want one piece, they want more than one? Yeah, it's pretty common, right? There probably are a handful of people out there that are like, I'm gonna buy one piece from every Utah artist, I'm never gonna buy more than one. but I don't really know any of those people. So, I would, at one point Carl said, I think we need to like create a tier system of all your collectors, and so we went through all my spreadsheets and stuff that I collected over the years, and we came up with like my gold, silver, gold, bronze, and silver. And so the gold were the people that had spent the most money, bought the most pieces, and then I think I just had like 10, maybe 10 were in that category. I think now I've got like 20 in that category. Whatever, you can reevaluate as time goes on. And so I kind of did that, had like 10 or 20 in each category, and those were like my top collectors. And so during COVID, we couldn't have any in-person shows, everything got canceled, it was like, what are we gonna do? So I just was like, everyone's having a hard time, I'm going to send some stuff out to my top collectors. So I just took a print, it was a print, and I stuck it in a hard envelope and I sent it to my top collectors. And then I had great remorse, because I'm like, oh my gosh, these people have spent thousands of dollars on my originals, they're not gonna like these prints. They loved them. They were like, it was exactly what I needed that day, just to see something. You know, there was another gal that bought something from me, and this is pretty recent. I don't know what I did wrong. I sent something wrong. If I didn't frame it or something, I did something. I just messed up the order. And she's like, hey, I just wanted you to know this is what I purchased. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I think I sent, I don't know. And it was the wrong size. It was the wrong size of print. Anyways, and I said, I thought about it, and I thought, I'll just send her the right size, but it's not worth it for her to send it back. I thought about it, and my heart said, she knows somebody that's supposed to have this other print. And so I just emailed her, and I said, you know what? I think that there's someone in your life that's supposed to have this. And she's like, you know what? I know exactly who it is. And she was crying, and I was crying. Granted, this is all on email, but she's like, I'm tearing up, and I'm like, I'm sitting here crying too. Anyway, so it was kind of a beautiful thing. Granted, it was a print. But there was another gal who kind of facilitated these sales. She had one of my paintings, and then she had this conference at her house, and she was talking about this subject, and she introduced everyone to my art, and then out of the blue that day I had like 5 or 6 sales, and I'm like, where is this coming from? I don't know where this is coming from. And then it was the same piece, right? Maybe they bought a few things, but it was always included this one piece, and I'm like, it's gotta be from this collector in Arizona. So then she texts me and she says, by the way, so I'm like, I gotta do something for her. So Tom would be proud of me, but he's gotta get the phone. I didn't send her a print. I found a little mini that I'm like, this is perfect for this person. And so I wrapped it up, and I was getting ready to mail it to her, and she texted me, just so you know, some people may be on your website buying prints of the piece that I bought from you. And I was like, oh yeah, thank you. So it was really nice. And anyways, so I sent her that little tiny painting. And then like a month later, her husband Instagram direct messaged me and said, hey, my wife's birthday is coming up and she really wants some of your art. Would you paint Mount Olympus? I've never painted Mount Olympus, and it was so glorious to paint that. Anyways, and so it was really fun, and I thought it was just gonna be, he's like, something like the other painting. The other painting was like maybe an 18 by 24, good medium-sized painting. And he's like, maybe something like that. I'm like, okay. So I was trying to figure out, and he didn't want it framed. He just wants it on wood, with thick sides. And so I was getting some pieces ready, and then he's like, actually, maybe we want it, like, it's gonna be next to this painting by Caitlin Connolly. You guys know Caitlin. And I'm like, oh, that's a big piece. Do you want it closer to that size? Yeah. And so then I go out, pull out these big, so I end up getting to do a nice 30 by 36, and I'm like, yes. Because sometimes you just want to like give your all for these people, right? So I was painting this for this sweet collector who had done so much for me recently, and I just was like able to give back all that love right into that piece. And she lives in Arizona, but where is she from? Right here in your neck of the woods, and that's her favorite view. And what a gift to be able to do that for her. So again, these things, I just think they take time, right? But if we'll commit to our collectors and we'll really strive to like have those personal relationships with them, we don't have to be best friends. We don't have to know everything about them. But if we like really seek to like see them for who they are right here and ask them questions like, what draws you, like, what do you, like they say, I love this piece. What is it that you love about it? Tell me, you know, what you're thinking. How do you feel when you see this piece? And you just spend more time asking them questions than telling them. Sometimes they want to know everything about what you did with the piece, and that's fine. Let them ask you questions, but sometimes it's important to just sit and listen to them and to see what it is that they love, and then you can make this connection, and you'll have this great connection with this collector that you would have never had if you didn't just sit there and ask them some questions, right? And just let that relationship continue to bloom. So, okay, so that's one thing. Any questions on? Yes.
I'm curious how you're doing your prints with the bead foils.
Oh, yeah, good question. Is it Tracy? Julie.
Yeah.
Okay, Julie. So it's not great, but I just have a camera and I take, it's bad. Okay, so I have this modern
Well,
house.
I'm on your website, they look really good.
Thank you. They're not perfect. Thank you though.
Props for doing it.
So we have a modern concrete house with really big windows that you see like at your favorite like commercial shops, you know, like the floor to ceiling windows. So I have a corner window in my studio that's really our living room. Thank you, Carl. He made me move downstairs. So the corner window has really good light in the morning, and so I will just stick it in the window and just let the light hit it. And so most pieces I can just put on the ground, I get right over it, and I take a picture. But with the big ones, I've had a hard time because for whatever reason, it's really hard to get the lighting in there with the big ones. They're hard. So what we started doing was taking them outside, and we just found a good shady spot so that the lighting is all even, and then that's how we took all the big ones. You can get lighting stuff. I did buy some lighting things, and I'm not sure I really know what I'm doing. I spent like hours trying to, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I thinking? But the idea is to kind of have two, right? You want to have, remind me your name in the blue. We know each other from Business of Art. Tell me your name again. Carol, that's right, Carol. Do you want to tell them some tips for, I mean, obviously you want to have two shining on it so that it doesn't have the glare.
I always take mine outside.
Okay,
I just
she's
find
taking
that
it outside too.
I get the best, I don't have any glare, I don't.
Right.
You know, I take them outside.
Okay.
But sunlight or shade? Because
Shade.
really makes a blue for me.
Yeah, no, I do mine in the sunlight, I find. the
Okay.
Angle in the sunlight.
Angle in the sunlight. So again, I think that you have to find your perfect spot, right? We do have a spot in the shade that we like to take it, but then I have to put it in Photoshop and I have to change the color. So I guess if you start in the sunlight, the hard thing for me is because I use the thick paint and it's really shiny, sometimes in the sunlight, then it just blows out the whole painting. So it depends on your work. I would say get a family member, friend, you know, somebody to go with you and take pictures in multiple places of your home and even outside and see what you think is the easiest. And you might have to mess with the colors afterwards, but if you don't have to, that's like one less thing to do, right? So I think that's super helpful.
So the actual question was, so if
Oh,
I go
sorry.
to your website and buy a print,
Yes.
do you have like 100 prints sitting around of every one of them
No.
and you're shipping them out, or how are you?
Okay, so that's a good question, sorry.
That's okay, no, I loved it.
I'm
I
giving you all
needed that
kinds of
too,
free
but-
information.
No,
Carol and I are gonna
That
get you
was
taking
awesome.
pictures outside. Okay, so I have a handful of some of the prints, like I have them in my studio ready to go. But I do have an Epson printer just in my studio. We used to go to Carl's office and he has an engineering plotter.
Wow,
And in
that's
the beginning, I would just put like canvas paper in there, we would plot right on it with archival inks. We tried. It was a good attempt for the beginning stages, and then it got to the point where we just realized that I really needed to do a really good job on the prints if I was gonna do prints. Because in the beginning I was like, it's not an original. If people are wanting to buy a print, who cares how good it looks and how long it lasts? And then I thought, okay, fine. If I can get my own printer, and I actually get a pretty good margin with the prints when I do them myself. Like, that's out of all. So original is obviously the best margin, but I would say the prints are number 2 because it's a pretty good margin. When I do the products like the skirts and the purses, I don't get as good of a margin. It's just a way to serve people and give them a lower price point, right? But
So So there's no, you don't have a website that you're, the.
No, I'm doing it in my studio. Carl helps me because I have a really hard time with the buttons.
But you're actually printing with the ups and on purses and all that?
Oh, no, just the paper, just the giclée, like on velvet fine art, that's all we're doing in-house. The other stuff I use Shop Vita, I've used Spoon Flower when I've made like the tablecloths, and those are the main companies that I've used. But I will say, like, some people are doing really awesome with that stuff, but I came to a point where I realized that what I really enjoyed doing was painting.
Yes.
I didn't want to spend all the time making the products, so I have enough, and I haven't bought any for a few years, because I'm like, just let people enjoy, and a lot of times I just use those for gifts. When people buy a big painting, I'll send the wife home with like a big purse or something, you know, or a tablecloth. Sometimes the women love the tablecloths. I don't know, you guys tablecloth lovers.
How do you figure out postage?
Okay, well, that's another good question. So at one
Doesn't that have to
point.
be on your website, the total cost?
So what I did the last few years is I just decided to include shipping. It doesn't matter if it's going to Ohio or Fruitland. I'm gonna include the shipping. So I sold a big painting in the fall and it had to be crated and freighted to Ohio. I included the shipping because it was worth it. It was a big piece. It was just worth it. So what I did do that year that I decided to include the shipping, my price per square inch, I made sure and upped everything a little bit more. So I've done some study, and a lot of people say you need to raise your prices anywhere between like 7 and 13% every year. Has anyone heard anything different?
I mean, I hear 5%, but it's same concept as any luxury item.
Right, yeah, 5% is great. And some years I'm like, for example, when COVID hit, I didn't raise my prices that year because I was like, oh my gosh, if anyone buys my art this year, I'll just be grateful, right? So sometimes I don't raise them, but I think 5% is a good rule. The point is just raise your prices every year. So that year I raised my prices instead of 7, I think I did like 13 or 15 because I'm like, I'm gonna include the shipping. And so what I decided was there's gonna be some people that just live down the road and I only have to pay $5 for the shipping of that piece. Other people I have to spend 30, other people I have to spend 80. But overall, I just try to get it so that if I look at all the shipping over the whole year, I just wanna come out even. I don't need to make money, but I don't wanna lose money on my shipping. And so my philosophy is, I just have a good, like I'm gonna include the shipping, I'm charging a little bit more for the products and the art, and I'm just gonna ship it to everyone for free. Now, there's other things that you can do. You can come up with a formula, and sometimes it's maybe the weight of, like you can say, oh, my 18 by 24s with the frame typically weigh this much, and you can actually put that in your website, and then or you can have a spreadsheet, and so you know anytime you do an 18 by 24, it's gonna be about this much, and so it's gonna cost this much on average to ship it within the US. Yes, Renee?
Most websites for e-commerce like Shopify or like Weebly for that matter, they will have a tool built in there that will already
Yes.
calculate
Exactly.
shipping for you.
Yeah, so Shopify does that for me. I noticed that it was a little bit off, and I don't know why it was a little off when I started doing it. So then I would put that the paintings weighed actually more than they weighed so that I could get the shipping calculations right. But then at one point I decided, you know what, if I really want to commit to my collectors, I'm just gonna give free shipping. Because again, it's kind of like Renee said, he closed the deal because they just waived the fee for him to keep the rights. And so I'm like, anything I can do to make it easier for people to buy, I'm just gonna do that. And so I haven't had one person complain that I'm not charging them shipping. I've had a lot of happy people, but it's worked really well. It's been really a good thing. Okay, did I answer your questions? Okay, I gotta make sure that I'm answering the right question here. Okay, let's see what else we got on here. Okay, so how many of you guys do payment plans for like people that can't spend $2,000 today, but they could spend it over the next few months? Has anyone ever done that?
Yes.
Only with family or friends.
People that I trust.
Only with people that you trust. Okay, that's a good way to do it. Did we get to your question forever ago?
No, as soon, we talked about the spam, because
Oh,
on my website and on Instagram, I've had 4 or 5 people spam
Right.
And I said, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And the frequency has increased.
You can
Okay.
block them.
Huh?
You can
Well,
block them so
I
that
know
you
I can
don't.
block them, but I'm saying not the same people.
Oh, you're
It's-
just
Yeah,
getting,
yeah.
you're getting more spam than usual recently. And
Yes.
I agree, I have been getting a lot of those NFTs recently, yes.
So, do you give the person buying the painting on time, the painting in the beginning?
It goes back to what they said. If I know the person, then I let them take the painting and then I just charge them. Like, there's lots of things, like on Shopify, I could set up a thing where I automatically charge their credit card every month. There, like one gal, she would just automatically send me something on PayPal every month. So it needs to be, again, it needs to be what you feel comfortable with. If you don't feel comfortable with giving them the piece, and you say once it's paid, then you can have the painting, I think that's fine. I actually have an artist friend who bought a study from an artist that she was taking a class from, and his art's really expensive, and so she knew she could only afford his study, but if it was a payment plan, and so that's what she did. She paid every month for like 6 months, and then when the final payment was done, he shipped it to her. So there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think anyone's gonna be upset, because if you're allowing them to pay over time, that's already kind of a courtesy, right? So again, you have to do what feels comfortable for you.
But sometimes getting it in their home, so they see it in there, they're like, yeah.
Right. So Carl's making a point that sometimes just getting it in their home is so important, because they're not gonna want it to leave, right? They're gonna be committed to you. Renee?
So on Shopify, there's actually a plugin or add-on, I don't remember what they're
Yeah.
called, to use Affirm. And
Yes, Affirm,
you
it is.
basically have to give them like a 10%.
Yes.
So you sell for the same price, but you're giving 10% off to Affirm, and they'll finance it for you. So like,
Right.
but they will find out if that person is credit worthy or not. Like it's their problem at that point.
Yeah, so it is a nice service if you don't know the people. I never signed up for it because the price, like the fee was so high. I was like, oh man, I'll take the 10 minutes and send them a thing, you know what I'm saying? I did have it was a different app before Affirm came on, and what was that? The recurring payment, there was like an early app that you could do, and it worked great. Recharge, I think you're right, I think it was called Recharge. I used it for my art business membership, and so I was using it all the time, but then when I put that on pause, I'm like, it's not worth me paying the fee every month to do this. So again, just look at the fine print and see if it's worth it for you. Maybe you don't wanna have to deal with that. Maybe you don't wanna deal with anybody that can't just pay you the full price up front. And that's fine, it's okay, it's totally okay. I'm giving you permission to say no to all the things with payments. Yes?
What's NFT?
Okay, so who's got a good
Non-fungible.
Token.
non-fundable token? Fungible. Anyways, basically it's like it's a digital
Digital art.
copy of your art.
But it's an original.
It's an original.
The only copy.
Sometimes
You own it.
sometimes they sell multiples.
But you own the, yeah,
You
you
own
own
the
the
rights to
original.
it, though.
Yeah.
You own the rights to it, and then you can decide if it only gets sold once or how many times it gets sold. But again, the problem is it's just digital, right?
No.
Sorry, I'm like,
It's not even in the meta affair.
yeah, I know. It's kind of a crazy thing. I would just say, it's
Don't
okay to.
worry about it.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it.
Don't fall for it, because we know it's a scam. I do have some artist friends that actually had like reputable companies reach out and make NFTs with their artwork. I don't think it ended up being anything really that exciting. Now, if it's like a really famous person, like, who's the guy that does the crazy art, goes in, starts with like a.
Trump did it.
Trump did Trump did some, but there's,
People are paying $100.
someone else is making those. But who's the guy that sneaks into galleries and like, Banksy? So I think there was some Banksy NFTs that like sold for, I don't know, like really crazy, but again, that was Banksy, right? It's not us. So I'd say it's okay. There's too many things to worry about as an artist, I would say let it go. Yeah, okay, do we need to wrap up?
get all your questions answered?
Yeah, any final questions? You're welcome. You guys.